What is up, everybody? What is up? I am Travis with Warriors Way Home. Happy to be here. Hope to see you guys today. Here's my co-host Edmund, and like I said, we are Warriors Way Home, and this is our webinar. So
What's going on, people?
hope you
Very
guys are
happy
all
to be
doing well,
here.
man. I know, right? I
Yeah,
know on this Saturday, out here, it's not blazing like it was yesterday out here in Colorado, man, and out in these mountains. Everybody thinks it's always cold here, man. It'll fry your skin off, your bone out here in the sun, bro.
yeah, man. But it's beautiful. I'm a summer baby, so I love the summer. Being able to get outside has been beautiful for the past couple of weeks, but I've been a little bit trapped indoors, just trying to get some work done. But man, like anytime I get the chance to go for a walk or go for a swim or something, it's perfect because it's a part of that self care. You need
Definitely,
to make sure you're maintaining.
for sure, man, for sure. All right, guys, so we're gonna hop right into the dealio. Feel free if you have any questions. I believe, well, no, you won't be able to ask any questions because there's no comment section on this one,
No,
unfortunately.
gotcha.
Maybe next time. Maybe next time. But what we are going to cover today is talking about reclaiming your purpose. Um,
Hmm.
the biggest thing with today is, man, for modern warriors is how do you find, or if you have had it before, how do you reclaim your purpose in the world we find ourselves in? Because, man, the world is not getting calmer as it progresses through. The world's never been a calm place. There's always been crazy stuff going on, but I think it's
Right.
with the invention of these, we have way more access to it now than we used to.
Hmm. There's so many distractions, man. Like the title says, reclaiming your purpose in a chaotic world, whether it's the news or your friend group or gossip or Instagram or social media in general. There's just every TV for those who still watch TV, but
Hmm.
definitely YouTube. Everybody's grasping for your attention and trying to tell you what you should think, what you should eat, what you should feel about whatever circumstances are going on. There's so many different, I don't want to say agendas because that's like a trigger word, but there's so many different campaigns that are trying to take you away from what you want to do, or trying to figure out what helping you figure out what you want to do overall. But
Hmm.
it's for, if you're feeling as if you're lost, if you're feeling as if you don't have a sense of direction, that where you can decide who you are, where you're going, then you are going to fall into those pit traps of just whatever the media tells you to think. You're not even being able to read a full article without getting somebody's opinion about it. They'll just read the title, and then now they're in some type of uprage or uproar, but
Hmm.
they don't even understand what they're upset about.
For
So
sure, for sure.
yeah, this is a time for you to retake your attention and your energy and put it towards what you want to do and
Hmm.
how you want to live your life.
Definitely, man. So, man, for those of you guys on here, man, since we're talking about distractions, this is going to be one of the major ones. So, if you have this next to you, man, either turn it off, put it on silent, turn your notifications off, because this is not what you need to be doing right now with what we're talking about. We're already talking about reclaiming your purpose, and this thing will suck you away from it so hard. So, I already put mine on do not disturb, because the minute we start this, somebody always decides to call me and distract me from
Yep.
what we're doing right in the middle of a sentence. So I cut mine off and push it away from me. So cut your phones off, grab your notebooks, grab your pens, because there are going to be notes. We do have some real important information to go over, because we're not just talking today like we sometimes we'll do, where we're just bantering. We actually have a step by step process that we've come up with on how do you find your purpose or reclaim your purpose, and how do you take that and turn that into a life worth living for yourself, with a solid foundation that you can grow with, but also be able to maintain. That's the biggest thing,
Hmm.
is to be able to maintain that. So we're gonna hop right into it, man, and get into these teachable moments that we have here. So there's a couple of things that we're going to cover today. Like I said, the main thing is going to be, yes, finding your purpose and reclaiming your purpose. But what do you do with that once you have that? Because that's the thing that a lot of guys will figure out what their purpose is and everything like that. And that's as far as sometimes some guys will go.
Hmm.
It's what's they call it? People who do all the research for the thing they want to do, the business, the education, the career, whatever it may be. The um,
Intellectuals.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
where they do all the research, but they never act on it. They
Yeah.
just continue to, the procrastination. Um, anyway, I forgot what the phrase was, but it's just basically you're gathering so much information, and people will do that for years and never act on it, never actually take action on the thing they want to. They'll know everything
I
about
think
the
they're called
business that they want to get
hoarders.
into. Yeah, exactly. This is exact knowledge hoarders.
Intellectual
Exactly.
hoarders.
It
Yeah.
was. It ends up being like information masturbation at the end of the day. It's like you're doing stuff, but you're not actually doing anything. You're not making anything.
Right.
It's just like, just to be real, because the guys out here, it's like masturbation doesn't make babies.
Yeah. For
It's like,
sure.
so people gathering all this information and not do, will know anything and everything about the topic that they're talking about, but haven't executed on it, but have been studying it for 5 years.
Hmm.
It makes absolutely no sense. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, yes, reclaiming and finding your purpose, but how do you take action on that afterwards? What are the techniques you use and the steps you take to take action and keep taking action, even when you may find yourself kind of drifting a little bit? We will be talking about the drifters, because both of us have been drifters in past parts of our lives, and then maybe in past lives. I know I was a drifter in a past life. But we will be talking about the drifter and how dangerous it is for men to be drifters in this life.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we'll be talking about learning the steps that you'll use to identify the why. I'm sorry, your why and your life's purpose. So, if you're feeling like you're missing something like that, where I don't know what my life's purpose should be, I don't know what I should be doing with my time. You know, it's figuring out your why. It's figuring out
Mm-hmm.
why do you even want to pursue anything at all. You know what I'm saying? If that it's built in a man to want to put that energy towards something,
Mm-hmm.
but the luxury that you currently have, that sovereign power you have, is to figure out for yourself what you want to do. So we'll be definitely getting into that, and also talking about the tools that you'll use to take your purpose, create an achievable goal for your life, and start executing on them right away. Once you figure out what that purpose is, what do you want to tie your time, energy, and expenses into?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get going. Let's go ahead and start doing that thing right now. And then lastly, discover the secrets to staying on purpose, even when you start to drift, because this is not a one-stop shop. You'll fix this one thing one time and then you're good to go for the rest of your life. Like, that's
There
not
is no
how it works.
perfection. There is
There
no
is no
perfection. Only
perfection
the
pill.
pursuit. Only the pursuit.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
is more about the journey than the destination itself, because
Yeah.
you'll have several destinations on the way to, your new truest self. So,
Mm-hmm.
we'll be able to go into all of this and just kind of break these individual concepts down, and you guys will be able to walk away with so much more value than you did before you came in.
Yeah, man. Because it's at the end of the day, the reason we're talking about this is because we've been in this position before. It's not something we're talking about that we haven't experienced, that we have no knowledge of. Um, I honestly probably have too much experience with some of this,
Right.
more than I should. Is like, because some of us have to learn the lesson over and over and over again before we get the message. It's just like some of us was were those kids that got whacked a few times for doing the same thing over and over again. But that's nobody in this group, of course.
Of course not. No.
So, man, the first part of this that most of us will experience is the crisis. This is the point where life definitely takes a turn, and not for the best in a lot of cases. So the crisis, there are usually three sections to the crisis. You have the identity crisis, because a lot of times, and I said this in a previous video, the most dangerous man, the most dangerous and most destructive guy that we have in our society is a guy who does not have purpose, because you have no direction. So you end up just drifting along. They're the guys you see in front of the liquor store when you're driving through a neighborhood, and it's like 10 a.m. on a Monday. And it's like,
Waiting for
well,
them doors to open.
yeah, it's like, yes, well, the doors are open probably well, maybe I don't know what time the liquor store's open, because I'm always at work. So, but they're the guys you see, in the middle of the day on a Monday, not a holiday, sitting on the corner drinking, smoking, playing dominoes, or just shooting the shit, or at the bar at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever it may be. They're the guys who are, we call them the lost boys in a lot of
Hmm.
cases, and
Hmm.
lost boys become lost men. Um, because when you don't have that purpose, you don't really know who you are. A lot of us are just, a lot of times when we don't have that purpose, we're just doing things. We
Hmm.
we get a job because everybody says we need to get a job, so we need to work, we need to make money, but we don't actually have a purpose for what we're doing. We don't actually have a purpose that we're living for. And that
Hmm.
becomes super dangerous. Those are the guys who are destructive to themselves and destructive to other people in this world. Those are the guys you really don't want to run into, and you definitely for sure don't want in your circle. If you have guys like that
Yeah,
in your circle, man, um, that can definitely lead to some problems. I can tell you that
yeah,
for sure. So yeah, so we
absolutely.
have the identity crisis. The identity crisis, a lot of times, what's been your experience with the identity crisis?
Man, my identity crisis came in the form of trying to fulfill the desires of other people for my life.
Mm,
Like when you have parents that have high expectations of you, when you see the things that they achieved, and it's not just about like your parents is a celebrity or a star athlete or something like that. Like maybe your parents are just really good at what they do, so they're respected in the community,
hmm.
and you think that you need to have some type of similar level of achievement, just to be worthy of being their child. I feel like a lot of people go
Mm,
through that when you're growing up. You know what I mean? It's either like, you know, get all straight A's, or nothing else matters type of thing, or being a collegiate athlete, or you're not actually strong or whatever.
yeah,
So, but yeah, that was mine, and trying to figure out what I was supposed to do with my life. I followed. Um, Kind of like the job patterns that my dad had, and we had argued a long time about me going to college. I didn't want to go to college,
hmm,
but they said you needed the education for certain jobs and for longevity kind of thing. And even though I went and I learned a lot, it still ultimately wasn't the thing I wanted to do. But I had to find my way through it as I was doing the thing that was supposed to satisfy them. So
yeah,
I went to college, but I graduated in the thing that I thought was important, and then was able to take that, as far as I could, or I'm still taking it as far as I can. But it's just a piece of paper that says that you're trainable in something, and that you spend a good
facts.
amount of money. You spend a good amount of money on that piece of paper, and
Yeah,
but I mean, it just
that is
shows
an
you can work hard
expensive ass piece of paper for a lot of people, bro. It's
for sure.
whew, I think they say what the college debt is, that we're at $10 trillion in, I think, college debt at this point, or something along those lines. It's something crazy like that.
Yeah, it's
Um,
college debt is like one of the biggest forms of income for the U.S. for sure.
yeah, it's well, I don't know if it's income now at this point, because it's people aren't paying that shit back. It's like
Right,
so,
right.
but man, yeah,
Don't
the
get us
identity
specs on that.
crisis, it can get wild, man. It can get wild because I had I actually went the opposite way with my identity crisis, and that was probably more along the lines of my dad and my stepdad. Um, these two, I didn't have a lot of, I didn't live with my dad or anything like that. I lived with my stepdad until I was probably about, I think they got divorced when I was around 10 or something like that.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
these were these were guys I didn't want to be. So it's like I did anything and everything I could to do the opposite of to be the opposite of who these guys were.
Right.
Um, and everybody has their good qualities. So I'm not gonna bash them and say that there was nothing good there. I got my work ethic from my stepdad for sure. He's balls to the wall. He will break his, yeah. He's a fucking worker, no doubt. No, nobody can say anything about that. But
Mm.
there were other things that were going on that I was like, I can't, I don't want to be that guy. So I ran directly to the opposite of that. Doing, it's like most of them, they worked in the same place for, they retired multiple times from different places. And I was
Right.
like, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm like, the longest job I had was like 6 months outside of me doing my own thing. So it's like I tried to
Right.
do the complete opposite, try to find myself, try to make my own identity, because I was so worried about being these guys that I just completely ran the other direction, kind of blindly, to be real about it, is like, because I didn't really have, like I said, a purpose or plan. It was just like, I know I don't want to be this, so I just ran that way, you know. So it
Right.
gets wild, man. When you're trying to figure out your identity as a man, it can definitely be some struggle, especially when we don't have the guidance. And when you don't have that identity, when you have that crisis of identity, a lot of times, like I said, it leads to a lack of direction.
Hmm.
Most of us don't. We just do things. It was like, what's that scene from Batman with the Joker, when he's like,
Yeah.
he's like, I'm just chaos. I just do things. He's like,
Right.
it's like I'm like a dog chasing a car. I wouldn't know what to do with it if I caught it. It's
Right.
like a lot of us are like that. We're chasing something, but if we actually caught the thing, I mean, think about it with women. How many of us have chased a woman and then she like you finally get her and you're like, oh, hmm,
Right.
I don't
I've
actually
definitely been
I don't
there.
actually like you.
Right.
It's like now that you actually want me, I don't actually
Right. I like the idea of you.
I don't actually find you that attractive. It was the chase. It was the chase. I
Right.
just like chasing you. The fact that I couldn't have you. It was difficult. It was difficult to achieve, and because of that,
Hmm.
I chased you. So a lot of us do that in our lives. Whether it be like I said, women, careers, different. Money. Money is a huge one.
Yeah.
Money and status is a big car that a lot of us are chasing, and then we get there and figure out that shit doesn't make you happy at the end of the day.
Right.
It doesn't fulfill you if you don't have a purpose or a why behind that. So
Hmm.
we have the identity crisis. We have the lack of direction, and then the last one, which a lot of times it leads to, and it's definitely led to it with in my life, is the drifting piece. Um, so my experience with these has definitely been I back to back. I had two relationships that ended based off of this wheel that we have here,
Hmm.
the identity crisis, the lack of direction, the drifting. Um, so back to back, I had two men I was dating ended with me, and after the second one, and I was personal trainer, working, doing. So I wasn't a bum. I wasn't sitting on the sidewalk, drinking a 40 when I was dealing with these women. I was always working, always doing something, da 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 da, grinding or supposedly grinding. After the second one, I was talking to a female cousin of mine, and I was, kind of venting to her, be like, I don't know what's going on. It's like this is the second one, that's kind of like, dump me and da da da, and just went on about her business, and I just don't,
Yeah.
I'm doing things and I don't understand, and she just was blunt with me. She, after talking a little bit and digging, she was like, she didn't see a future with you. She's like, she didn't see a future because she started asking me questions like, well, what do you want to do in the future? What's your plans? And the only answer I had was like, oh, I'm gonna be wealthy. It's like, okay, well, how? I was like, I'm gonna be wealthy.
Right.
It's like,
I will
and,
dream it
and
and we'll find it
yeah,
under my pillow.
exactly. So I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out.
Right.
That's usually my answer is I'll figure it out. But I didn't have like a solid set like direction in my life. Like it got to the point with me doing the personal training and everything to where I don't want to say it got easy, but it got easy.
Hmm.
To where I didn't have to work hard to do the thing. I was good at it. People, came to me for it, and it was one of those things I didn't have to grow to keep being that version of myself.
Right.
And so when she said, she didn't see a future with you, that's why she left. Man, it was a nut shot. I'm gonna be real about it. It was a gut shot because I was like, ooh, that shit's true.
Right.
Oh man, because I didn't have a future. I didn't know where I was going. I can't say I was on purpose because I definitely wasn't, and I was drifting, through life, kind of aimlessly, So you can be successful in what you're doing and still be drifting,
Right.
you know.
Absolutely.
And but probably 6 months after that conversation, man, it just lit my ass on fire. I was like, I will never have another moment where somebody says, where women, whoever is like, they don't see a future with you, or you don't have a
Right.
future, or
Hmm.
anything like that. I will never ever have somebody question um, my drive, my purpose, and that I have something bigger for myself. It's like that will never be questioned again. And it lit
Hmm.
me the fuck up, and that's when I, opened the boot camp gym and did all these different things like that, and started on that process, and just, bro, that shit will light you up if when you have that reality check for sure.
If you
I
care, I would say if you
mhm.
if you care about how people perceive you and how you perceive yourself, then you will care. You know
Well,
what I mean? Because some people might take that,
I wouldn't
they'll
say it
hear
was a
that and then they'll get into just a low point. They may
yeah,
not bounce back
and
the
this is
way that
true.
you did.
This is true. I would say it wasn't necessarily like the, the thing I didn't like was how true it was what she was saying.
Hmm. Hmm.
I didn't like how it made me feel when she said that.
Right.
That's the thing that got me. I was like, oh, I never want to feel this way again. It's like, no, no,
Right.
no, 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 no. It's like fuck what everybody else thinks. It's like I never want to have to, you know, have that gut check again. Is
Yeah.
I don't want to give people that ability to, because that's the thing is like a hate dog's gonna holler, and a lot of people get upset about things because there's some truth to it. So when
Hmm.
somebody says something to you, if it's not true, you don't really get upset about it. But if there's some truth to it, and you
Right.
got to be honest with yourself, is like that's when it can really hurt the ego, and that's probably what it was. My ego was hurt more than anything.
Yeah,
It's like that shit hurt my ego bad.
for sure.
And I know you've had your experiences with this as well. So
Yeah, man. When you have a lack of direction, it really that's where you really need to take account of who's around you
hmm
and what influences are you having in your ear all the time, to the
yeah,
music that you listen to the food that you eat, to the people that you hang around, to the job that you work. I
hmm
when I had my lack of direction or my identity crisis, I was actually doing better than some of my other friends because I was either in school or I was working. I was always doing something with my time.
hmm
Um, but I had a lot of friends that didn't have a lot of sense of direction, but they were like my main homies. So
yeah,
when you um, when you hang around people who aren't doing as much as you, they start to look at you like you're doing something wrong because it also, like you said, a hit dog's gonna holler, and they may feel as if you're trying to show them up somehow, or they'll
hmm
try to get you to slow down because they don't want to speed up. You
yeah,
know what I mean? So I was running around with a bunch of guys who, they were basically passing the same women back and forth, and they were always getting
mm.
high or drinking, kind of thing, and just kind of petty things would go on
Passing
between
women,
them.
bro. I don't even like to double dip behind somebody. I don't. I can't even drink a drink behind somebody, let alone share a woman.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is these things happen. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
was because you're not valuing the woman herself, or you're not
Yeah.
like in a real relationship with her. You know what
hmm
I mean? So like, if your homie hits, you actually don't care, or you pretend like you don't care, and maybe you got feelings, and then now you sour at him. That was basically the situation that happened with me, where
mm
I had my best friend had slept with my ex, and or not my ex, she was my girlfriend at the time, but luckily I wasn't in love with her, so it didn't hurt as
hmm
much. I was more upset at him, but it was just the fact that I was hanging around with people and was capable of doing this kind of back and forth dance with them.
mm
So I won't carry on the story, but it was just like we had a sit down after that. We had kind of squashed it, almost came to blows, but we squashed it. And then several months later, we're like kind of laughing about it, but he had said something that kind of triggered me, where it was kind of that same gut shot to you, where he had basically said that she had told him to tell me about the affair, and like she thought it was funny, and he was like, oh, I almost did. And that was that part where I was like, ooh, you're not my friend, are you? And we
mm
had spent a very long time, years hanging around each other. And when you hear something like that, that's where you have a decision. Either you are gonna fight it out, and then potentially maybe somebody loses their life behind it, or you just make a change. You change your circle, which is the safer bet,
hmm
because you're gonna have more peace. You're going to be able to sleep better at night. You don't have to be looking over your shoulder. You don't have to worry about somebody trying to backdoor you, which basically means that they're trying to set you up for something. And you can actually live your life with people who actually care about your growth, and you care about their growth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had a decision to make. So I basically, scorched earth, got rid of my entire friend group, went back to school, or I was in just continuing on my studies at that point, found people who actually cared about me and my well being, and people
hmm
who I could care about, and kind of sold that back into them, and here we are, but
hmm
it's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard thing to do, to,
Yeah.
to cut off everybody that you know and love, or think that you know and love. And that lack of direction goes into drifting, because you'll just do the same thing. You'll be
mm
trying to chase down women. You'll be trying to get into drugs and alcohol, and just generally not being a productive member of society, and fucking up your health in the meantime. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
And shortening your lifespan. So
hmm
how bad do you want to live and attain your dream, if you have one?
hmm
You got to change those surroundings, because it's just going to be a feedback loop of fucked upness.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, man. It's the the change part can definitely be an uncomfortable piece of it, but it's definitely a requirement, to get yourself out of this loop. Like I said, that having that identity crisis, lack of direction, and then into that drifting, bro. That drifting can get real dangerous real quick, man. And
Lose a lot of time that way.
that goes into our next point, man, which is
Yeah.
falling off the path.
Yeah. So when you're falling off the path, man, it's let's say you did find your purpose. Let's say you did find the thing that you wanted to do ultimately with your time and your energy and things like that. So maybe it's a business, maybe it's just a hobby, maybe it's a sport, whatever that is, right? Well, as you start to make that, we call it a paradigm shift. As you start to
Hmm.
move into this new world of yours, you're going to have a lot of mental and emotional struggles, and it starts, when men start to drift through life, we often find ourselves battling with mental and emotional struggles, whether you're still in that thing or whether you decide to change. That you're
Hmm.
still going to have mental and emotional struggles on both sides. When you get your purpose, it actually starts to be the old world trying to bring you back into that thing. But even if
Yeah.
you're just drifting, the mental emotional struggles are, I don't know who I am. I don't know, why am I so people pleasing or self-serving? Why do I have these feelings that I can't really articulate, and I don't have anybody who I can talk to them about?
Yeah.
So then you
What-
start to kind of go numb and have that emptiness.
For sure. What's that
So you're going
saying?
to say something? Yeah.
Stand for something or you'll fall for anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hmm.
All these things that you don't know, that unknown about yourself and the world, will give you a mental and emotional toll,
Hmm. Oh
on
yeah.
how you maneuver out throughout that. And if you're not well equipped to be able to sit down and figure out these things, you're going to get into vices and addictions, which can be anything but to your phone, social media, video games, pornography. We already said drugs and alcohol.
Yep.
Just being around the wrong people, and then you'll spend so much time on these distractions because you don't know where your time should be spent. So you're just thinking, oh well, I'll just sit down and have a drink and watch this TV show or the game or whatever, and just not think about it for a while and recalibrate, and I'll come back and figure it out later. Well, that
Hmm.
later never comes because you keep avoiding the situation. You
Hmm.
keep avoiding the things that you should be doing, and too often these escape methods and struggles will turn into full blown addiction
Oh yeah.
because you're sinking. So at the same time that you could be sinking into the new version of yourself, you're sinking into that like quicksand of confusion, and now you're just kind of stuck in your vices because it's the only thing that does feel good.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I think you had a story
Yeah.
that about addiction, right?
Yeah, man. It's and people think that addiction is like, oh man, I can't. Addiction is really easy to fall into, bro. It's like people get addicted to caffeine, to cigarettes, to their
Sugar.
phone. You got people getting addicted to video games. Like Candy Crush and all these different things. All these different things like that. Um, Validation for women is a big one that they talk about. Now that they're addicted to that validation.
Hmm.
It's so people think when people hear addiction, they think like heavy drugs. They're like, oh, well, I'm not, I would never get into crack. It's like, do you think the person who got into crack was like, you know what, my life's going really well. You know what I should do? Crack. Yeah,
Right.
that's what I should do this weekend. Crack. No, that's not how that goes, man. A lot of times it's like you said, that mental and emotional piece can, that it's easy to fall into that addiction. It happened to me, at 18. Um, I was a lost boy to just put it blunt, man. It's like I was lost and drifting through life. Right out of high school, didn't have
Hmm.
any kind of a direction on what I wanted to do. Actually, you know what I did when I my senior year, I decided I wanted to get into personal training. Tried to go down that path. Ended up running into a roadblock.
Hmm.
Where they didn't have financial aid, and I was like, I can't pay for this shit, so I just stopped. And next thing you know, I found myself just drifting, man, and I found myself drinking heavily. At first it started, just fun. I had a friend up the street from where I live, and went up there and we would, sit in the basement and drink. And
Hmm.
it's like, oh yeah, man, we're just drinking, playing video games, talk, shooting the shit, and it went from being fun and like doing it here and there to like every night going up there and drinking.
Routine.
I'm talking about like
Yeah.
not like a beer or a shot or a couple shots, something like that. We were drinking fifths of vodka. We
Yeah.
were drinking. We actually never wasn't fifths. We were drinking whole handles of vodka, and not the good stuff. We are talking about like Skull vodka, like the cheap
Yeah.
shit that an 18
Yeah.
year old who's broke would buy. But
Right.
we were
What you can
drinking
afford.
we were drinking whole hand. We would drink a whole handle of vodka sometimes a
Hmm.
night between the two of us,
Yeah.
and we were doing that pretty much every night of the week. And
Yeah.
it got to the point where it's like I mean, I remember I lost track of how many times I stumbled back down the street back to the house. Um, but it got to the point, man, where it was like, what am I doing with my life? Where am I going with this? I would say probably the kicker was at a certain point he went off to college, and then it was just me.
Hmm.
And the funny part was the drinking stopped,
Hmm.
and I was like, you know what? I realized that he went off to college, he did his own thing, but I started seeing a lot of the people who we were around, who were doing some of the same things that we were doing, man. I decided I was like, I'm gonna put my energy into working and doing this thing and figure it out as I go, get into doing sales. And that got me into personal development and, really big into mindset and all these different things like that, which kind of stopped that whole process of heading down that road of alcohol addiction. But
Hmm.
a lot of the guys we went to high school with and came up with, they didn't stop. They just kept
Yeah.
heading down that road. Even some of the ones who went to college, where he went, started heading down that road, dropping out of college. Some guys ended up going to jail. Some guys ended up getting heavy into the drug thing, man. Whether it be crack or cocaine or meth and all these different things like that. There's some guys that I went to high school with that are dead now, behind some shit, that all started with just drinking, having fun at 18.
Yeah.
And it just, like I said, snowballs. Before you know it, you look up and a year's passed. It's like even when we were doing it, I looked up and we had been doing that for months. And I was like, bro,
Hmm.
we've been drinking every night for months. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
I can't I can't keep doing this, bro. And like I said, it's not hard to fall into that addiction piece, man. It's like, whether it be, like I said, the porn thing or the women thing, or even just seeking validation from other people. It's very easy to fall into that, go from a vice to an addiction. Super easy, way
Yeah.
easier than people think it is. And it's not just like people who are real fucked up. You have people who go to work every day in an office, who drink on their break, pick up a 12 pack of beer on their way home, have maybe two left by the time they get home, and then are
Yeah.
sitting there drinking Jack and Coke for the rest of the night, and then waking back up and going back into the office at 7 o'clock in the morning. There are people who are functionally addicted to their vices.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like you're saying, it's all that self destruction off the back of, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want to do with my life. And
You're filling a
it
void.
seems like
You're filling a
yeah,
void.
it's
Is all you're trying to do is like, I don't know who I am. So to avoid me thinking, and that was a big piece of it, which you hit on it just right there. Because I didn't know who I was, and I was dealing and fighting my demons and fighting my battles, I was drinking to avoid this because it numbed it. That
Mhm.
was the main thing for me. I don't know why other people do it, but for me it was numbing, because when I was drunk, I wasn't thinking about my problems. I wasn't thinking about the
Exactly.
stuff I had gone through as a kid. I wasn't thinking about the fact that I didn't know where I was going. I didn't have to think about that. I was just numb. I was having a drunk and having a good time. And I
Right.
didn't have to think about all the stuff that was going wrong in my life. I could avoid it. But then I woke up and had the same problems that I had to face again.
Exactly. And that loop, that little Groundhog's Day of, just trying to escape yourself. I tell
Hmm.
people all the time, man, it's like you can't vacation your way out of your problems. You can't drink or smoke your way out of your problems because everywhere that you go, there you are.
Hmm. In every
And it's really
relationship,
just that,
in every career, in every
yeah,
business, you're
it's
there.
that
You're the common
self-awareness.
denominator.
Yeah. You need to be able to be aware enough of these loops that you put yourself on, and a lot of it, like you said, it's not intentional. For a
Hmm.
lot of people, it's not intentional, but the getting out of it isn't intentional either, and that's
Yeah.
the problem. You know what I mean? Self destruction. It's not just the alcohol. It can be just cutting yourself or depressive thoughts. Even if you're a sober person, I've seen people who are completely sober still go through the worst stuff, and they're just doing it with no outside influence, no intoxicants, but on the inside, it's still that toxic cycle of they're trying to run from themselves and they can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you need to make a choice.
You can't build a successful life in that place. You can survive the life you have, the life you're living. Actually, it's not even living. You're existing. You can
Right.
exist, but you can't build a successful life in that place. There was no way I could build, a success. I had to come out of that for me to get on the path to get where we are, to get where I am right now.
Right.
If I had stayed in that place, there's no way I could have gotten and done the things that I've done in my life, or do
Yeah.
the things I'm going to do. It's like there's no way you
Yeah.
can build a successful life being stuck in that place. You have to come out of it. You have to come out on the other side. Otherwise, you're just going to be existing in your life, and
Absolutely.
that's a traumatic thing to watch people do, especially guys.
Yeah.
You know. So hop into, and that flows right into our next piece, which is going within. Um, Probably one of the not one of the hardest thing I had to do in this whole process of um, become getting out of the drifting and getting out of the addiction. Luckily, I didn't go too far into it. Luckily, because it
Hmm.
could have got ugly, and it has gotten ugly for a lot of people. We unfortunately a lot of us know people who have taken addiction way too far. But to come
Hmm.
out of that, the hardest thing I had to do was start asking myself hard questions. I had to get real with myself and stop running. That was the biggest piece. Like I said, the drinking and the party and different things like that, that was running from who I was and what was going on
Hmm.
with me and the reality of the situation. The minute I stopped running, I had to turn and face that. And that can be some of the hardest things that a guy can do, is having to face who you are. And we talk about one great technique. This also in our course is the accountability mirror. I heard
Hmm.
that from David Goggins in his book Can't Hurt Me, where he talks about the accountability mirror, where basically it's just you getting real with yourself. And like I said, in order for you to come out of that space, that feedback loop that we talked about, you have to get real with yourself. And and a big piece of this is figuring out where you are right now and being honest about where you were right now. I
Hmm.
drank every night and was doing these things because I was unhappy with my life. I was not happy. I was not satisfied. I knew I had more potential, and I was just like, I don't like who I am. I don't like me. I don't like
Hmm.
me. I didn't like me. I didn't think I was a good person. All these different things started coming out, and I had to be honest with myself about that. Not tearing myself down, but I had to really sit down and be like, okay, where am I right now in my life? It's like I'm 18, 19. I'm drinking heavy every night. I'm really not getting shit done. I'm not moving forward in my life. I barely, wanted to make it out of high school. I didn't feel motivated by that. It's like I know I'm intelligent. I know I'm smart. I know I'm capable, but I'm not living up to any of that right now.
Hmm.
It's like if you looked at where my life was right now, none of that shit matters because of where I'm sitting. What have I
Hmm.
achieved? What am I doing? Where am I going? And I had to get real with myself, and to really sit with that and take that. And it's not a comfortable conversation to have with yourself all, at all. But it's one of those things that needs to be had. So, why don't you explain the accountability mirror to them?
Sure. So there's a couple different ways that you can do this, but the main way that we have is that it's simply going up to your mirror in your bedroom, your bathroom, making sure that you're alone because you are going to be talking to yourself verbally. You are going to be, talk like literally talking to yourself in the mirror, um, and you're going to take account to who are you? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your desires in life? Maybe what are the things that you don't it's not about being right or wrong,
Hmm.
but it is those strengths and weaknesses, and you're taking account of yourself and like who you actually are. It's not necessarily about your name or where you're from and all that stuff, but your personality traits. Hey, I like to have conversations with strangers. I'm an outgoing person, or I like to totally shut down and ghost people when I don't get things my way. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's really taking into account what are your personality traits that you see within yourself, maybe you don't like,
Yeah.
but also the good things that you have about yourself that maybe somebody can tell you about. And it might be a little
Yeah.
hard. Maybe you can bring in other friends just to say, hey, can you, it's a simple phone call to say, hey, where do you see me messing up in my life? Just
You
being
gotta have the
completely
right people in
honest.
your life for
But
that, though. You
yeah,
gotta
yeah,
have the
yeah,
right kind of
yeah.
people, because some
But
people will.
no,
I don't
address
know
you.
if you.
I've
I don't
been
know if you
waiting for
had.
this
I don't know.
moment. Like,
Yeah, I don't know if you had that experience where some people were like, "Oh boy, oh yes, thank you for
right,
making this call," and will tear you the fuck down, or not be honest with you, not be completely honest with you. Some people have
right,
those people in their life where they're like, they don't want to say anything that they feel is going to hurt your feelings, so they know there's something that they should tell you, but they choose to like pull back just enough to where they feel like they're going to break you. Some people get treated like glass in this life. So
right.
having the right people, like Edmund and I have that kind of relationship. You and I have had those conversations where it's just like
Mhm.
those quote unquote come to Jesus moments, and it's like, but we both know It's not, hey man, I'm not trying to tear you down or break you down. I'm trying to, make you aware of this so we can keep, so you can keep growing and build yourself into the guy you say you want to be.
Right. And it is a
Mm-hmm.
kindness. If they can do that respectfully, it is a kindness.
Mm-hmm.
But if you, and it's just this is just for if you cannot do it yourself. If you're
Yeah.
not, if you haven't been introspective enough to say, okay, this is where I'm messing up, this is where I need to maybe make some adjustments. Maybe it's just start with your clothes. Are do the clothes that you wear actually fit? Do you, are you grooming yourself in the morning so that you're presentable for the rest of the world?
Mm-hmm.
But you really need to take account of where you are in this moment,
Yeah.
brain dump everything out and then start to cross off those things or make a list of things that you want to change.
Mm-hmm.
But just understanding that that mirror is your best friend and it is your greatest enemy,
Mm-hmm.
because everything that goes on in your head is, you are not your thoughts. And a lot of people don't understand that, is that, sometimes it's just the programming that you get from other people. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you got some residual, messed
Not
up
your shit.
comment that your parents say. It's not your
Not your
shit.
shit.
Maybe something that your
Mm-hmm.
parents said or an ex-girlfriend said, or maybe a school teacher or whatever. Figure out what is it that I actually feel about myself,
Mm-hmm.
and then work through that and figure out those things that don't belong to you, and then just get rid of them.
Yeah.
Because it's like a radio channel. You can change the frequency of the thing that you hear in your mind, and you need to just change it to something more positive. You've been stuck on the same negative channel for all these years, all this time, but you just didn't know there were other channels.
Mm-hmm.
So just change the channel, but it has to start with where you actually are and what you need to do to change in your life.
Yeah, man. And one key point I would make with this is, um, don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. Have you've here's a good example. Have you ever taken a car in to get traded in for, for another car or something along those lines, or even like
Yeah,
a store, to, you want to trade in an item for another item. Um,
yeah,
you know, the person is going to examine, what you have, and yeah, it's your item, it's your car, it's, your PlayStation 5, whatever it may be. It's your thing, but to them,
hmm
it's not. It's like, so they're
just a thing.
completely
Yeah,
neutral. They're a neutral party in this thing, and that's what you got to be. You got to be a neutral party in this thing. You got to almost step outside of yourself to examine what's going on with you. So not
hmm
taking it personal, not like not tearing yourself down, like you said, or having those outside influences come in. Is like, you got to step outside of yourself for this moment and be neutral in this moment. Not, what I'm saying isn't good. What I'm saying is not bad. It just is like, and they go around the car with their list. It's like, hey, oh yeah, it's a, low miles, but man, you got the scratch here, you got a dent here, your window's cracked. It smells like, pot in the car. You can tell I sold cars back in the day.
right.
But you just get a list and you're going through. It's like, man, you got one bald tire and the other three are, kind of are low in air, whatever, man. You only got one headlight that works. Is like, so
hmm
you're thinking, a lot of people think they're either doing super, super bad and they're not doing as bad as they think they are, or they think they're doing super well and they're not doing as good as they think they are. So it's
Right.
like that neutral, being neutral and stepping outside of yourself and examining where you are right now is key with that. So don't take it personal. Stay neutral and be able to, step outside yourself. And like you said, if you have a hard time stepping outside of yourself, find somebody you trust to actually, be honest with you. Be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm trying to improve myself. This is what I'm working on. I need you to be honest and truthful with me 100%. Whether you think I'm going to like it or not, I need you to be honest with me in this thing
Right.
and start asking those questions, those key questions.
Right.
And a
And then the
lot of that,
last.
hmm yeah, and a lot of that leads
House.
to to the piece about who you are. It's like, so we established where you are. Once you start figuring out, okay, this is where I am in life right now, because where you are right now is just a result of things you did in your past. It's not
hmm
an indication of what your future is going to be like or anything like that. I told people this, with the working out thing. It's like, people are like, I'm fat. It's like, you're fat because of past decisions. It has nothing to do with the future. What you do from here, from right now, where you are, to the future, that's a choice. What you did
hmm
in the past, those were decisions. Right now, you have a choice. So once you figure out where you are, now you get to make a choice about who you are. You
hmm
need to figure that out. It's like, okay, like I think you touched on it a little bit with, what do I want? What do I want in this life? If this isn't what I want, if I'm fat, I'm broke, I'm unhappy, I haven't had sex in a year, whatever it may be, for you. Okay, that's where you were. What do you want?
Hmm.
Was it from the notebook? What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want?
Right.
That's fucking hilarious. People make that joke
Yeah.
way too much. It's so played
Yeah.
out, but it's so funny. But it's true. It's like what do you want? Who do you want to be? What do you want? What do you want to do? Are you even in the career field that you want to be in?
Hmm.
Are you working at Sonic, but you actually want to be a day trader? Are you a day trader and you actually want to work at a flower shop?
Hmm.
What do you want? What do you want in that? What kind of relationship do you want? Even if you're in one that's not what you want right now, you got to really be honest about that. It's like, what does that look like for you? What's the
Hmm.
pinnacle? What's the peak of that for you? What's the ideal life for you? And that's how you figure out who you are. Is that
Hmm.
because you figure out what you value? For some people, it's going to be, the money and the Lambo and the yachts and everything like that. For other people, it's going to be a cabin in the woods with 40 acres and a
Yeah.
farm that's all paid off, and and driving a classic truck. Or some people, it's going to be, running a hot dog stand in New York. Whatever it may be for you. And that's what we talk about. Fight your fight. It's not about what everybody
Hmm.
else thinks. This shit isn't about what we think. What your mom thinks, what your daddy thinks, what your grandma, what your dog. Nobody. What do you want? Who are you? And that's where you
Hmm.
got to start purging those other voices out of your head, because it might not be for everybody to start a business. That might be great for some people. It might not be the thing you want. You might want the security of, I mean, I want to work at a great company for the next 30 years and retire and raise my grandkids. Cool. For some other people probably like me, that sounds like torture. It's working in the same place, not the grandkids part, maybe, but
Right.
the working in the same place for 30 years, being told what to do is like, man, that you throw me in jail.
Hmm.
It's not
Yeah.
for me, but that's me. I had to figure that out about myself, because the rest of my family went a certain path. That wasn't my path because of
Hmm.
who I am.
Yeah.
You know.
And knowing that is just so important because once you have that opportunity to clear that space and give yourself that mental real estate back, and you know
Hmm.
what you want to do and you know who you are, you know that very next step is where are you going? Where are you going to
Yeah.
take this new version of yourself? You and this is a lifelong journey because like we're saying, this does take effort. This takes effort to get rid of that negative self-talk that maybe you've picked up from other people or over the course of your life. But while
Hmm.
you're getting rid of those things, you get to put in now your desires, your things that you want to accomplish and the money that you want to make in the relationships that you want to have, and it
Hmm.
should drive you to finish out that journey
Yeah.
because it is more about the journey than the destination. Once you'll never be done with who you are. I think that's one thing that we should definitely put a caveat on is that
Yeah.
this is a lifelong journey. You're never going to be done changing yourself until you're on your deathbed and they tell you you can't get up to do anything else. You know what I mean?
I'll be fighting to
Until
do the thing
you're
though. I'll be
you
don't tell me what I can't do. Shut up.
right.
Don't touch me.
And then but
It's
you'll have so much. We never know how much time we actually have left anyway, so
yeah.
you might as well live as if you know it could be over tomorrow, but plan
Hmm.
as if you're not going to be dead for another 100 years. So
Yeah.
where you going is so important because you're going to be able to leave a legacy behind, and even if it's not for family, it's just a legacy of accomplishments about who you were in this world, the fact that you
Hmm.
could shake the earth the way that you wanted to be able to make some type of ripple and change that helped other people because your
Hmm.
life is not really about you, but being able to come at it from that perspective means you're going to make so much more change in the world and put out so much energy that it's going to be easier to be remembered kind of thing.
Hmm.
So that where you're
Exactly.
going, what drives you, what are you passionate about, what does success actually look like for you? Those are the things people are going to be talking about because you'll be getting to know yourself throughout this whole thing. People will never be able to get to know you fully, but that's the beautiful part is that there's always something new that you can do, and getting out of these negative feedback loops is just the first step.
Hmm.
But that where you're going, that's the real journey. Once you have that solid foundation, the next step should be a lot more fun than getting to where you are now.
For sure, man. And for while we move on to this next part, man, one thing I would definitely say to people is, man, be writing this down. Be writing this down if you're, or do, audio recordings if you're about that, or video, whatever it may be. But record this in some kind of way. Because with this and the way it goes, man, it's like a lot of people just stay stuck here. It's like, but as
Hmm.
you write it down, you write these things down. Those are the things we change. The things we
Hmm.
write down, we have to look at on a regular basis. The things that get stuck here, we can get distracted and forget all about it. It's like the stuff we write down. This is where I am. These are the things I don't like about myself. And you talked about it in our course. Writing these things, journal it out. This is where I'm at right now. And man, you read that 5 years, 10 years later, dude, you would be
Hmm.
surprised at how much you've changed. Because if you're looking at that on a regular basis and you're realizing you're seeing these things repeatedly, that oh yeah, I don't like this part about my life or myself or these different things like that, you have almost no choice but to change, because eventually you're going to get sick of reading and writing that same thing down over and over again. So
Exactly.
I'd say that's a super important thing and one that you touched on quite a bit. So I definitely didn't want to move on before we touched on that.
For sure. So crossing the bridge is it's not the last step, but it's one of the more important steps.
Mm-hmm.
When you realize and you take account of who you are, and in this moment and where you have been, now you're saying, okay, I'm done looking at the past. I know who I am in this moment. I am fully present. What is the next thing? It's crossing over into that new version of yourself and setting the foundation that it's going to take to make sure that you don't have to ever step off of your square. We
Mm-hmm.
said we call it staying on square because it's like a king in a chess game. You know what I mean? He hardly ever moves if you're doing your job right. The king never has to move from that square and is able to allocate his decisions and everything to the rest of the board.
Mm-hmm.
But that foundation that we're talking about in this scenario is, what do you stand on? What is that
Yep.
new version of you going to be doing with all this time and energy and mental space that you have? What are you going to bring out of your mind into the real world that's going to help you move forward in life? Once you
Yep.
know who you are and you identify your purpose, it's like, how do you start to integrate that into your life? All right, I want to
Mm-hmm.
have more self-respect. What do I need to do to be somebody who respects himself? And sometimes you need to look at it as if you're helping somebody who's not you. Look at that
Mm-hmm.
new person as if they are a new person and they're coming back to you to help you become who they are now. If that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. But you need to start to integrate these things into your life because, like Travis said in the beginning, you're just going to have this information hoarding mentality, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. Yeah, you may know how to build a car from scratch or paint the Mona Lisa, but
You can
until you
explain
actually
it.
put,
You
or
can
you
explain
can
it, but you can't
explain
do
it.
it.
Yeah, but you can't do it. You know what I mean? You
Mm-hmm.
can you can try to tell somebody that, but if I put you down in front of that canvas or that auto shop and you can't do those things, well, do you really know it? I think not. You have to
those,
have the experience of it.
those those who can't do teach.
Exactly, exactly.
Yep.
So, what we're bringing to you guys as an example is to use the eight Bushido principles or the virtues to process. I'm sorry, in the process of setting that foundation.
Mm-hmm.
We spent so much time in dojos and talking to friends and things like that, where we realized that these eight virtues that we're going to share with you guys are the best way for us to understand what it looks like to be a man that has heroic courage, self respect, and compassion, and all these other things, and integrity and honor, for not only how we want our lives to go, but for the people that are around us.
Yep.
And so that first one, just being honest, like we said, with the accountability mirror, the first person you're going to need to be honest with is yourself, being
Yep.
truthful and sincere and straightforward in your speech and actions. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, the moment you start to move in this new version of yourself, you're not going to recognize yourself. And other people are going to be like, why are you doing this all of a sudden? And they're just going to have to get used to it because now you've jumped into a new reality where you're able to do, think, and feel the way you want to and not the way you've been programmed. But you got to be honest with where you started and be sincere in your actions as you're moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. And then we have heroic courage, man. Is like the biggest thing is the courage to dare. You gotta approach this process. It's not gonna be a process that you're gonna feel completely good about the whole time. It's
Hmm.
just not. Change is uncomfortable, and it should be, because it's growth. It's just like being in the gym when you're pumping out that weight. It's not a comfortable thing once that weight starts getting heavy. It doesn't get fun when the work starts, when it starts to burn. The work starts. What was it that Ali said? He's like, well, when do you start counting? Is like when it starts hurting.
When it starts hurting.
It's
Right.
like it's like when it starts hurting, that's when it really starts counting, and that's when a lot of people quit. That's when so many people quit, when they got still that as David Goggins says, the 40%. You've only hit 40% of your capacity, but you quit because it started hurting, it started getting
Mhm.
hard. You have to have that courage to keep going and keep pressing forward, even when it gets hard, even when it starts getting uncomfortable for you in your life.
Yep, absolutely. And being compassionate, for yourself and to others. So it's just that consciousness of others' distress towards, um, I'm sorry, distress, can't read today, distress together with a desire to alleviate it. This is being able to see a homeless man on the street and giving him a bottle of water or a dollar or something because you realize that at any point that could be you. You could
Mm-hmm.
be living on the street. You could be, couch surfing. You could be not having food to eat, whatever that it is. And it's just having a little bit of sympathy or empathy for your fellow human being who is facing a hard time right now. That dollar and that bottle of water is not going to break you and it's not going to lift them out of poverty. But being able to give them something, being able to assist a family member when they need help, or walking an old lady across the street, or donating blood, whatever that it is, it's just saying, hey, I am in a good spot right now. And even if you're not, sometimes, like we say on this channel all the time, maybe sometimes the best way of getting over your bullshit is to help somebody else with theirs.
Yeah.
So it's just reaching out to, your neighbor or a friend on the other side of the aisle and saying that I see you and
Yeah.
let me be of some use to you so that, that you can do a little bit better and it's not going to break me to do so.
Mhm. But also having compassion for yourself. And that's one thing we talk about, pretty heavy is, yes, having compassion for the world is great, but it's one of those things that you can't be putting out your neighbor's fire when your house is on fire too. You got to put yours out first. It's the reason why
Right.
on airplanes they say put your mask on first. Before you help somebody else, put your mask on first. There are times where you're not going to be in a position to help other people because you have to help yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you got to figure out your shit. I had my cousin used to say, "Do no harm to self." It's like
Mm-hmm.
in all things that you do, do no harm to self. So when you're trying to help somebody else, don't do harm to you. It's like if all I got is $30 left in my wallet, and you need $30, but I know I need $30 to pay, let's say pay my electric bill, or they're cutting my lights off tonight. I
Right.
should probably pay my electric bill to cut, because otherwise my whole family's
Right.
gonna be in the dark. Is
Exactly.
like I should probably take care of that. Me giving you the 30, yes, would it be, great, and would it come back to me? Yes, but I'm also doing harm to myself. So I got to be compassionate to myself first and foremost before I can
Mm-hmm.
be compassionate with the world. Because if I'm not compassionate to myself, if I'm trying to say I help you, but I treat myself like shit, then I'm not going to give you the best I got.
Right.
I'm not going to give you the best I have anyway. So I
Yeah.
gotta learn to be compassionate to myself first before I can even show you compassion.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And respect, man. Respect is huge, especially, dojos, but just as men, period. We talk a lot about the fact that there's obviously a lot of guys who have never been punched in the face before. It's just by the lack of respect that they have in talking,
Mm-hmm.
just in the way you communicate comes across whether you have respect or not. There's a lot of guys running around here with some reckless mouths that haven't been punched in them yet. That
Yeah.
probably will before they leave this earth. They probably will get hit in the mouth once or twice when they meet the right one. But it's one of those things that you have to have a baseline of respect, and that once again that starts with how do you respect you? How do you show your self respect? Touched on it. It's like, are you walking around with your hair all wild and your breath is funky and you haven't washed your clothes in 2 weeks? That's an extreme example. But let's be real about it. How do you take care of yourself? Are you eating a bunch of junk food? Are you working out? Are you actually taking care of yourself? That's showing your self
Mm-hmm.
respect.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, the world's going to treat you how you show them how to treat you.
Right.
If you don't respect yourself, nobody out here is going to respect you.
Yeah.
You know,
And
you
also
know.
respecting others.
Mm-hmm.
Just well, yeah, yeah, I would say you pretty much nailed that one for sure. And it's like how
Oh,
you
did you?
stand, how you how you present yourself, how you shake somebody else's hand. It's
Mm-hmm.
all just a reflection of how you want to be treated. Because if you're walking around with
It
a
reflects your inside.
yeah,
How what you present to the world reflects on how you actually feel about yourself. So if I'm shaking your hand and it's all like this, and I'm not looking you in the eyes when I talk to you, and I'm letting you talk to me any kind of way or anything
hmm
like that, is like I'm showing that I don't respect myself on the inside. I could, and even guys that kind of show this, this fakeness out in the world.
Bravado.
It's
Yeah.
like before, we talked about it. A couple of YouTubers that obviously aren't who they say they are. There's a pretty famous guy out there. We're not going to name any names, who might be going back to jail because he's not living the thing that he said he was really about, and ended up beating some dude up in the gym. He's
Right.
talking about respect and all these things like that, and value and manhood and masculinity and everything like that. But you decide to jump some dude in the gym who is going to fight you one on one.
Hmm.
It's like I don't know if you're living up to your principles. So
Yeah.
that's a respect thing for me. It's like I don't know, I can't show you respect because you obviously don't respect yourself.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And also integrity. It's that firm adherence to a code or especially moral or artistic values. Integrity is so important because it's not just about what people see, it's what they don't see.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still the same person when you're in front of a crowd and when you're alone? And if that's how people know they can trust you, or are you doing the things that you say that you're going to do? Are you fulfilling the things that you say that you were, keeping those promises? Or if you say you're a hard worker, does your work match the words that you said that you put behind them? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Is your money where your mouth is, basically? But it's that integrity that allows people to give you opportunities and for you to be the best version, not only of yourself, but that see you as. If they can come up to you and say, Travis, you're a man with such integrity and all this other kind of stuff, and you're, behind their back kicking dogs and taking candy from babies, you're not the same person that you said that you
Oh,
were
you
when
saw
you
that?
were.
Ah,
I
man.
saw that. Yeah, I
Hey,
saw
it was my
that.
favorite kind of candy, man. He didn't need it. He only had one. He only had two teeth. He didn't need candy.
He was, yeah, with two teeth and he was blind. Travis, what's going on?
Hey, man, it was probably diabetes. So I was saving him from himself.
You know what I mean? So you gotta be able to, example aside, you gotta be able to to show that you're somebody who can be trusted and to be given opportunities because you're not gonna make that other person look bad. If somebody sticks their neck out for you or puts their name on the line for you and you blow it up and you're not the person that they presented you to be, you're also ruining their integrity. So it can kind of spread like a virus. If you're not doing what you're saying that you're going to do, it can just allow other people to also be untrustworthy or perceived as untrustworthy, I think.
Definitely, definitely. Honor, man, it's one thing we harp on heavy, heavy here. Our whole thing is about honorable masculinity. Um, it's number one is like if you don't have honor as a man, um, you're gonna move through this world recklessly. You're going to. And I think when people hear honor, they think about these high values and different things like that. Like a pastor or MLK or somebody along those lines. Is like no, every man should be honorable.
Hmm.
There's certain things like you said that honor flows into integrity that I just don't do because that's not who I am. It's like I have a code about myself where I just have non-negotiables. It's like
Hmm.
yes, I stole that candy from that baby, but I was trying to save him from himself. That was honorable for me. I was saving him. But no, but seriously, it's like we talk about like do unto others as you do unto yourself. It's like don't steal, don't kill, don't sleep with a married woman. All these different things like that. A lot of these are just codes of honor that other people made. But what's your code of honor for yourself? What are your
Yeah.
non-negotiables for you? Because I've met people who my morals and my code didn't line up with theirs, and I really had to take a look at them and be like, I don't think I can be around you.
Hmm.
It's like because if it bumps up against mine so much, if my thing is I don't, for instance, if I'm at the store and I get back change, well, people don't use cash anymore, but if I get back change and I leave and I realize you gave me too much change, I'm going back to the store. I don't care
Hmm.
if it's a penny. I'm going back to the store and giving you that back because one, I don't want the karma from that because I do believe that comes back on you tenfold. It's like I don't want the karma because of a penny. I don't want to have a flat tire on my way to the store because I took a penny. That's
Right.
stupid.
Right.
It's like I'm not putting myself in that situation. That might be an extreme example for some people. They don't believe in karma, but it's one of those things that whatever you do comes back on you. Is how I think. So for me taking that back and giving you what's not mine, that's not mine. Here,
Hmm.
take this back. But at the same time, on the other hand, on the flip side, I'm also not going to let you steal from me.
Right.
What's mine is mine. Is like that's my code, you know. So other people that I've met, they don't believe in that. You know, if they get an extra dollar, extra 10, or extra 100, sometimes will give them 10, they give them 100. They're not saying anything. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I've met people that will just be like, "Hey, man, just made a come up. You want to go? You know, you want to go to the bar? You want to go? You want to go get something to eat?" I'm like, "Nah, bro, I'm not eating off of that money. That's blood money."
Blood money is extreme, sir.
I
But
treat it
okay,
like I treat it like
I
blood
get
money.
what you're
I'm like,
saying.
nah, I'm cool, man. I'm cool. That's blood money, bro. I'm good. I'm good. It's like, what do you call blood money?
Wow.
It's like, because you're gonna end up bleeding for this. Some shit's gonna happen. Some shit's gonna happen to you, and I don't want to be around when it does. I'm cool.
Hmm.
It's just like,
Yeah.
you know, but you got to have that code of honor about yourself, and you know what's that for you. You know, that's the biggest thing, and that's one thing we touch on heavy is creating that honor code for yourself, so that you when we find ourselves drifting, we find ourselves in those situations, we have things to fall back on, and these are the things that can kind of you're never you're not going to get to the point where you're not ever going to not drift, but these are the things that help you get back on path a lot quicker. It's kind of like the
Hmm.
autopilot on an airplane.
Hmm.
People think it's designed to just keep you on path the whole time. It's like, no, an autopilot is designed when the wind blows you to to the right, it brings you back on path. That's what an autopilot is designed for, and that's really all of what we're doing with this is setting that foundation so you have the tools to get yourself back on path as quickly as possible when
Hmm.
you figure out that you're drifting in life.
Absolutely. Then there's duty and loyalty, just a strong feeling of support or allegiance. And I would like to think that by us having this webinar, the business that we're putting out, and the community that we're building through the Legion, we're trying to prove our loyalty to the fact that men need to give themselves real standards, and it's our duty to help, as we're finding out how do we want to live our lives, what is our mission, what are the fights that we're fighting. Our duty is to be able to share that with our brothers. We need to
Mm-hmm.
be able to, look to the man to our left or our right and say that I got you. If I learned something that's going to help me get to the next level, it's my duty to share that because I want
Mm-hmm.
somebody to share that with me. It's going back to that karma like you're talking about. I may not look at it as blood money, but I definitely can see the value of understanding, you know, if I take this, somebody may try to take something extra from me without my knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I see that my friend is cheating on his wife and I don't say anything, well, there's a good chance that, our relationship isn't that secure either. He's going to do something negative against me. So if
Mm-hmm.
I'm not checking these patterns, and I'm not being a true friend is being loyal to somebody and proving pointing out their not their downfalls or their holes or anything like that, but just like
Missteps.
that creative, the missteps and that creative criticism,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm sorry, constructive criticism, being able to help bring that back to alignment the way it should be and not letting them drift all far out. Because I've seen people who if they see you drifting, you're talking to somebody you shouldn't be talking to, or maybe you're having an extra drink and you got to drive a long way home, they'll let you do it just to
Mm-hmm.
see what happens, just so they can say I told you so, and they didn't even tell you in the beginning. So as somebody who's been around a lot of people who have not been loyal, loyalty to yourself and to your environment are extremely important, which is why we say remove yourself from those things that are not going to give you the best outcome, because if not, you're just going to be either another crab in a bucket,
Yeah.
or you're not going to be able to trust anybody around you, and you're going to stay stuck there because it's just better than the unknown of what if I try to do better, get around better people and all that, because it's still a sorting process.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to be loyal to your own values first, and establishing those
100%.
values by having honor, respect, and all this stuff for yourself, and then seeing if you can find other people who align with those things, and so that you can all move forward together in the most positive way possible. You know that they have your back for it. You're
Definitely.
all on path.
Definitely. And self control, man. This has been a huge win in my life is having the self control. And a lot of these, we talk about this from a martial arts standpoint. Having that self control has kept me out of jail
Hmm.
many times.
Hmm.
Because it's one of those things that if you, a man who doesn't have self control, you'll see very quickly the chinks in his armor.
Hmm.
The minute I if I can anger you, I can control you.
Hmm.
It's just like being in a fight. They say, don't fight. Bruce Lee said, don't fight. It's not anger. It's emotional substance. Is that the
Hmm.
man who fights with anger, that's a man you can control. You can dictate what he does in the fight. I can make you move. Is I can make you, if I piss you off enough, I can make you move to the right. I can make you move to the left. I can make you think something's a weakness when it's actually a strength. I can get into your head and start playing with your mind if I can
Hmm.
anger you. The man who angers me can control me. That's the biggest thing with self control. It's not allowing the outside world to dictate who you are in your bubble.
Hmm.
We talk about it as like there's this bubble around you none of the world can should be able to access. And
Right.
when you lose that self control, whether it be in scenarios of like somebody cutting you off in traffic, or somebody saying something to you that that was disrespectful, or somebody bumping into you in a crowded room or anything like that, it's like if you lose yourself in these moments and take things to a point that they shouldn't have been taken to because somebody cuts you off in traffic, that doesn't require you cutting them off in traffic and hopping in and getting out your car and pulling out a crowbar and going after their car. It was a grandmother cutting you off in traffic. She was busy with her grandkid in the back drinking Starbucks, and you're flipping out over this thing. I had
Hmm.
an instant, when I was leaving your spot, the other week, where I told you a guy cut me off because I was in the fast lane, not going fast enough for
That's
him. He
wild.
wanted to go 95. I'm sitting there going speed limit 75. I'm going 85.
Hmm.
He wanted to go 100, and he's right on my bumper, flicking his lights, everything like that. And then finally, when he got, because I didn't get over, there was no room. Everybody was in the other lane. When he finally got an opportunity to go around me, he went around me and then went to sideswipe me into the freaking guardrail in the middle. And this was like 10 o'clock at night. And if I hadn't hit my brakes, half of his the bed of his truck would have smashed into the passenger side of my car if I hadn't hit my
Hmm.
brakes. So because this guy got upset that I wasn't going fast enough, maybe he had a situation, maybe something serious was going on. I have no idea. But because he got so upset at this situation, he almost damaged his vehicle. He almost damaged my vehicle, and he almost got an ass whooping because if he had hit my car,
Right.
so the self control piece would have been out of the equation for me. It's like that would have been. It's like, okay, this is a moment where I can take this to another level right here. It's like that would have
Right.
been some Grand Theft Auto stuff on the highway. There would have been some news. Like it's just like, how did you beat him into a coma with it? He beat him against his own truck. Um,
Right.
but but in all seriousness, this dude was completely out of control of his scenario. It didn't require taking it to that level with what was going on. It's,
Right.
it's like, so having that self control in your piece, that you shouldn't be able to let the outside world control you, because if it can, you're probably not in control of yourself anyway.
Right.
Hmm.
100%.
Yeah, man. So that's these are the principles, some of the principles that we talk about with the eight inner gates. We get into, like I said, deeper into the self control piece of it. We talk about financial integrity with yourself. Edmund did a killer lesson on financial integrity. How to save your first $1,000, how to
Hmm.
start to work yourself out of debt, how to be in integrity with yourself. It was an amazing lesson. Definitely recommend checking that out.
Appreciate
Talking
that.
about how to command a room, how to command respect, not ask for it,
Right.
not trying to not trying. And when I say command respect, it's not demanding. I'm not demanding you to respect me. I'm showing you that I'm a man that deserves respect. Whether you want to show it to me or not, I know that I act and I move and I think as a man who deserves respect, and I act
Hmm.
accordingly.
Yeah.
So getting into these lessons, man, it's like I said, it sets that foundation for building a life on top of that. It's like when you have these things, the respect, the integrity, and these things that you can come back to when you feel like you're out of sorts. It's like, okay, my life isn't moving the way I want to. Where am I out of whack? Okay, how am I with integrity? Okay, I'm cool with that. How am I with respect? I haven't been respecting myself as much. I've been, drinking too much. I've been indulging in too much weed, too much, too many women, too many, whatever. It's like I probably need to tighten up in that area. And like I said, it brings you back on path. It's a way for you to judge how you are doing in your life and to correct that. It's a huge thing. Like I said, it sets that foundation for everything else we do in our life. Because how can you build your empire, your kingdom, your life worth living, your relationship, your career. How can you build it on a foundation that's built on nothing?
Right.
And there's a lot of guys, unfortunately, moving out here where you see them, like I said, super successful. You see on Instagram and these different things like that. And we've heard stories of these guys that make a lot of money, NFL players, NBA players, where they're making hundreds of millions of dollars, but they end up having altercation with their girlfriend in an elevator, or they end up wrapping a Ferrari around a tree because they were drunk, because they were out drunk driving, or they
Mm-hmm.
end up messing with somebody they shouldn't mess with, and then rappers end up getting shot in the hood because they were messing with the wrong people, because they were not moving with these foundations. You
Mm-hmm.
took them from where they didn't have it and then give them the whole world and give them access to it. And all that does is magnify who you are in that moment. If you don't have integrity and I give you $1 million, you're still going to move like a man without integrity. You're just going to be a millionaire moving without integrity. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't change. If you're, a guy who's solid, who gives back, who's a good person, all that's going to do is magnify when I give you that success, when I give you that money and everything like that. All this does is magnify that. So you have to have that set foundation for yourself in order to build. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. In
Keep it
order to build,
together.
no, don't. I said I wasn't gonna cry this time. In order to build that, like I said, build that life worth living, that life, that 2.0 version of yourself, to become the man who can achieve the things that you say you want, to achieve the career that you say you want, the relationship, the business, the family, to do all those things, to become that guy. You have to set yourself on a strong foundation, and that strong foundation will keep you in place or bring you back in place no matter what the world does in this chaotic world that we find ourselves in. So, um, the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway I would say with this is we hope we gave you guys a lot of the tools that you can actually use today. Whether you
Mm-hmm.
buy the course or not. I'm gonna buy the course. Whether you buy whether you buy the course or not, the tools that you have to actually use today to start making those changes in your life, to start figuring out, like, okay, am I am I on purpose? Just
Mm-hmm.
even ask yourself that question. Take even if this webinar did nothing but to make yourself ask yourself, am I on purpose? Do I know what my purpose is? Do I know who I am? Who am I? Where am I? Where am I going? Be able to ask yourself those questions, man. Is If you get nothing out of this but that, man, is like, I think we've won. Um, but to say that the course has so much more to offer than, for those guys who, yes, are searching for their purpose, but who want to do more with that, who want to take that further. I think the course is an amazing thing. It's something that I go back to and start watching some of our stuff when I feel like I'm out of alignment, to be real about it. And it's helped. Even the process of us making this has shown me how far I've come and how still far I want to go and how far I need
Mm-hmm.
to go still, in
Absolutely.
that.
And it's first of all, like for the amount of value that we've packed into this thing, there's we're only going to leave this for a limited time offer. Currently, we're at something 47, I think $49 for the course, for the whole course, and
47.
there's action items,
Mhm.
and yeah, $47. Thank you for the whole course. Much greater value.
One
I
time
think we're
payment. It's not.
one
It's
time
not a
payment, right?
subscription.
And that's the thing, man. Like I know that some people try to get you on a subscription for a course or a community and all that, like as a wrapped up thing. But for right now, we thought this was so important that we're gonna leave it as that for $47 for a limited time only. We're not sure how long we're gonna leave it like this, but that will jump up to I think about 100 at some point. But I mean,
I'm
there's
thinking
so
probably by the
much
end of the month, we're probably gonna
by the
knock
end
the
of the
price
month.
up. It's like
Okay.
so.
Yeah,
It's not
but
gonna be very long. Either at the end of the month, or if we have a lot of people hopping in this, man, it's probably price is probably gonna go up. The next probably 10 people to buy the course, we're probably just gonna go ahead and bring the course up, because that allows us to really know that, okay, people really are digging this, and start probably putting more into it and different things like that. So you definitely want to
right.
lock that price in, man. Hundred
Because
percent.
it's going to be an ongoing thing. It's not just like we have. I know some people do with their courses, it's just the videos or just a written component. Like we've packed so much into this. There's guided meditations in there. There's exercises for respect. There's the financial loyalty plan, like Travis was saying, the accountability mirror, a honor system that you can develop for yourself, so that you're counting your wins and your losses on a
Mm-hmm.
daily basis, so that you know where you stand on that that purpose meter, let's call it, or your mission
Yep.
meter. Because if you're not keeping track of these things that you're doing every day for it, it's going to be easy to get back off path and kind of fall into those same old habits. So if you're looking for a way to stop drifting, to set yourself on the path that is meant for you and only you, find a way that you're going to be able to fight your fight not only efficiently, but better than you've ever fought any fight previously. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? This is the course for you. Even if you start to drift after you buy it, like Travis said, you'll always have ways to come back to it. And maybe there's going to be something new in there that you haven't thought about or considered previously that we decided to add into it retroactively. So you're always going to be able to get an updated version of it, no matter when you come back to it. So this
Mm-hmm.
is like we said, a forever course. It'll always keep growing as long as you're growing and we're growing. You're going to be growing as well. So spend. This is not a something that you will buy later or buy now and regret later. This is an investment in yourself. How are you wanting to present yourself as a man to the world? Are you
Yep.
going to be able to protect yourself not only physically but mentally from all of the distractions that we talk about? At the beginning of the webinar, whether it's social media, porn, drugs, just having the wrong people around you, toxic relationships. Maybe you hate your job. Maybe you hate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Depression, whatever that it is. There's something. I promise you, there's something in this course that will help you dig yourself out of that hole and get to be the person, like literally stepping into the skin of the person who you actually want to be, which is somebody who can fulfill their goals, fight their fight, and always remain on purpose and never step off the square.
Definitely, definitely. So would that make them a skinwalker?
Sure. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
But yeah, man, it's like the and man, just to close that, man, the whole reason we well, doing the webinar on the purpose thing, we definitely felt moved to do this. The whole reason we built the course was we built it for the guys that we were when we were drifters, when we didn't have our purpose.
100%.
What I so wish I had something like this. When I was coming up to actually, really guide me more into building a life for myself, because I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
that guidance, and something like this would have saved me so much time and so much damage along the way. So that's why we did this thing, is that we had ourselves in mind. It's like, where were we when we were drifting? What did we need to know? What would have helped us along the way? What would have got us out of that faster? Even if we were staying in it for a little longer, what would have sped up that time for us to get out of that thing? And
Mm-hmm.
that's why we did that, man. It's so intentional, and I'm super proud of us for doing it. And I think it's gonna, and I know it's gonna help a lot of guys if they take advantage of it. Man, $47, bro. Man, you pay more than that for dinner now. That's some
Yeah.
people some people buy, when they go to the grocery store, their eggs cost more than $47 at this point
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
society.
For
So
sure.
it's
Yeah.
like that's one day of like Starbucks and junk food for some people. 47
Yeah.
is like, so bro, or weed. It's like, shit. Let's just be real. Some of you are gonna spend more than that on weeds today.
Right. For sure, man. But we
But
definitely.
mhm.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, just saying, it's like, so make it's an investment, man. Make an investment in yourself. Even if you're not gonna buy, gonna buy our course, make the investment in yourself. Don't be afraid to make the investment in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I've spent hundreds and probably thousands of dollars on books at this point, books and courses and different things like that, to
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of start to figure myself out and paying them. And some of them were great, some of them weren't that great, but I was willing to invest in myself in order to get myself where I wanted to be. And that's the biggest thing. It's like, a lot of people think it's like, well, it's a lot, it's money. It's like, no, you're investing into yourself. Every time you spend money on a course or a book or these different things like that, to figure out more about you and who you are and to move yourself faster along the path, you're investing in you. And man,
Mm-hmm.
anytime you invest in yourself, bro, that's money well spent.
Yeah, and you're buying time. You're buying your time
Mm-hmm.
back. I heard Alex Formosi talk about whenever you're buying a course or you're trying to get education, you're buying your time back because it's going to give you that boost or that tip or trick or key that's going to get you to that next level faster than
Mm-hmm.
if you were just doing it by yourself. Because you're not going to know the differences between what's a better cost of your time or your money, for products that you need or services or online stuff and all that, like whatever you're trying to build for yourself, if you go to somebody else who's already done it, they can tell you what to look out for. And that's all
Mhm.
we're trying to do, is tell you what to look out for in the game of life, so that you're not falling into the same holes that maybe we fell into, or get yourself out of a hole that you find yourself in. You
Yeah,
know, there's always going to be something that will always push for people, so that they're not having to spend years off of their life and potentially losing their life to things that they just didn't know that they could fix.
absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, on that note, guys, it's been a pleasure. Really hope you guys got something out of this. And for those who do want to purchase the course, right there, right on the same page, right below the video, you'll have access to go ahead and get the course at the current price. Like I said, because that will
Hmm.
not be here for very long. It's like it's either going to be by the end of the month or probably over the next 10 people who decide to join the course. That price is going to be going up to, I believe, 97. It's going to be going up to almost double.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
so definitely take advantage of that while you can. Like I said, right down here at the bottom of the screen, or later on if somebody's watching this and we decide to actually post this up on YouTube, because it does have some benefits, so we might decide to do that later on. The
Yeah.
link for the course will be in the description. Can't promise you that it's going to be at the current price of 47. It's probably going to be a lot higher than that. By
Yeah.
then it might be a couple $100. Who knows?
Depending on what
with
else we put in
with
there. Yeah.
what we got in there, man, already, dude, bro. Okay, so definitely, for those who want to go ahead and purchase that, ignore me. Go ahead down the page, click that button, and go ahead and purchase the course. Or if you're watching this later on YouTube or another
Hmm.
platform, the link will be in the description for you to go ahead and make that purchase. But yeah, guys, it's been great. Hope you guys got something out of this. I know I did. It's always a pleasure to hop on here and share the knowledge and that we've gained. Sometimes bashing our heads against the wall multiple times. But
For
it's definitely
sure.
for a reason, because we don't go through these things on accident. These things are on purpose and for a purpose at the end of the day. And what we always say is, no matter what you do when you're fighting your fight, whether you find yourself um, lost and you don't know who you're supposed to be. You find yourself drifting through life. You find yourself fighting addiction. You find yourself not happy with who you are, who or what you're doing. You always have the opportunity to change. You always have the opportunity to grow. And at the end of the day, it's all about you and you fighting your fight, because you much rather be a warrior in a garden.
Then the garden and the war. See you guys
Take it
next
easy,
time.
guys.
Thanks for joining us. Peace.
Peace.